Hey everybody, Jim from Jim's Holiest of Coleus. Okay, so here we go. 2023, the crop is beginning today. It almost feels like just yesterday I was shooting my finale, not my goodbye, but my sort of end of the season video, and here we are again. Successful eBay listing. I sold a lot of seeds. And I hope those of you who have bought seeds from me are going to follow along. I know quite a few of you are already. Some of you have started your seeds. Some of you are waiting for today. So I'm going to get right to it. Again, if you're new to my channel, please subscribe if you want to learn how to grow Coleus. They're very easy to grow. Like a lot of things, if you kind of look at the big picture, it can seem a little daunting, or people say, oh, you know, I don't have a green thumb, I can't grow things and so forth. Coleus are very, very easy to grow. You don't have to have a green thumb if you're going to grow just a few. I urge you to follow along, subscribe, and try it out. You'll be surprised how easy they are to grow once they get going. It's just there's a few things in the beginning I'm going to touch on that you need to do to get them started. Or if you don't want to start your own seeds, maybe you just want to go to your local nursery or order plugs online. You can get Coleus at your nursery, Home Depot, Lowe's. You could buy a Coleus and still subscribe and look through my videos, or stay tuned here through the season, and I'll help you. You can maybe take some cuttings and root them, or plant them into another pot and make another clone of the plant. You can make hanging baskets. You can make so many wonderful things, even from a store-bought Coleus. Also, my good friends over at Rosie Dawn Gardens, give Rosie Dawn Gardens a try. They are very unique. They will mail you live Coleus plugs, and they have such I just love the way they package them. And you can order them now and choose your delivery date. So I always order every year, and I usually get around 6 varieties. I try to expand, and I believe I chose the first week of May to have those plants delivered to me. So give them a try also. All right, so I use the Jiffy Pods. You can apply these principles if you're just gonna plant your Coleus in soil. Don't use garden soil from outside. Don't get a pot and go out in your yard and dig up garden soil. It's not really good. I suggest seed starter mix. That's the best thing. But Coleus are such easy to grow plants. You can go, if you can't find starter mix, you can use potting soil. But for my purposes of what I do, I use the Jiffy Pods. So follow along. Just a couple of things. What kind of water? Some people ask, can I use spring water? Maybe your water from your fountain, from your sink has a lot of chemicals, a lot of chlorine and so forth. And maybe can I use distilled water? Can I use spring water? What kind of other water can I use? Should I boil my water? I wouldn't do that. Don't use distilled water. You can use bottled spring water, as long as it's natural spring water. That's actually really good. The best is rainwater. So if you have, if you're getting rain, if you know you're getting some rain tonight or whatever, and you know you're going to be planting your Coleus seeds tomorrow or whatever, or if you already have a rain barrel, get some rainwater. Rainwater is the best. If not, go to the store, get a container of whatever spring water. Make sure it's natural spring water, because it has all the natural elements in it. If distilled water is not good to use, because it removes all the chemicals and the minerals that plants need. So if you use distilled water, you're not going to get good results. So don't go there. Use natural spring water. If you can, again, I don't want to make this rocket science. If you use your tap water, your seeds are going to grow. They're going to be fine. But I just try to throw little suggestions out there, and you can pick and choose what you want to do. One tray holds 50 pods. I plant about 4 to 5 Coleus seeds per pod, and so I generally have around, I'll do 3 or 4 trays, and I don't overseed more than that. So you don't want to overseed your pods. You don't want to, and that's another issue too, is caveat, just be careful. Coleus seeds are so tiny that you tend to overseed, because I have all these little tiny seeds, and I've done it myself. You have these little tiny seeds and this pot, and you think you have all this space, but you got to remember they're going to grow up. I use the Saint Bernard puppy analogy. That little Saint Bernard puppy is going to be a huge monster before you know it. So always keep that in mind before you do. So I generally put around 4 or 5, no more than 5 Coleus seeds per pod. I try to spread them out as they grow, and then later on we'll get into separating them and so forth. So let's get started. I'll show you real quick. I want to get right to it, so we'll give you a real quick rundown on what I do. Okay, so a seed tray like this with 50 pods comes with, this is when you buy them like this, they come in the tray, 50 pods, comes with a clear dome, and generally this 50 pod tray will take about 10 cups of water. What I'll do is I'll put half in, make sure all of them get water, and see how it goes, and then add it a little at a time, because I would rather underwater it first, because these pods are a little smaller than the original ones, so I have to make up to that. But when you buy if you're using the Jiffy Pod system and you buy a tray from the store, it'll tell you right on the directions how much water you use to add to your pods to let them to let them soak that water in. So don't get nervous, but it's always good to be to add water slowly, and don't put the full amount in, and let them completely absorb all of the water. And then if you see some that are not fully expanded, add to that. And I'm going to show you this also. I'm just going over this. Again, another thing too is put your tray inside the cover. That way when you add water, if there is any kind of little holes or whatever, they shouldn't be, it will catch on the tray underneath. Or if you're going to be doing it outside, depends on your weather. I mean, if you're in an area that's warmer, you can do it outside. But we're going to add some water now. Make sure the water is warm. Not hot, not boiling, but if you use warm water, the peat will expand much quicker. If you put cold or even like room temperature water, they won't expand as fast. So try to use warm water. Even put it on the stove, and don't boil it, but get it on the warmer side, and then add it to your pods. Just a little caveat, they suggest warm water. Okay, if your water's cold, what I did is I just put it in a stainless steel pot, and I just slightly warmed it on the stove. Not hot, it's just warm. Very, very like lukewarm. And here we go. They're gonna float a little bit. Just make sure you get all of them covered. And again, it's best to do a little at a time until they expand. And so I'll put like half of it in here, or more than half, about 3/4, and let them expand. Okay, it's been 10 minutes now. There's still some water in the tray. You can see how they expand. Now, they're not fully expanded. Now, again, this is a full tray. If you have a smaller tray, it's the same principle. So look around. Some of them,
There may be some that don't expand as fully as others. So what you do is just, there's one over here. I'm still going to give them a few minutes. When I said they'll expand quickly, that was a relative term. I make sure that all of the water in the tray is gone. Or if I see there's some water, I'll move it to maybe one side and I see a few that haven't expanded fully. It's not a big deal if there's a few that haven't. It's best to have less water than overwater these. You don't want to overwater them. So if you do, nothing that can't be fixed. But these are, they're getting there. We'll get to the next part of what we do next. But they look pretty good. There's a few here. I'll maybe put a couple of tablespoons of water on just to make sure that they're fully expanded. Okay, if you see a few, perhaps there's one like this one here. It's really hard to tell with the camera, but you can see this one here is not quite as expanded, and you can actually kind of feel them. You could do is, you can see the center, how it's opening. That's really the netting that's opening. You can add a little water to the top netting, and that'll absorb it. Any pods that look a little dry or not fully expanded, just add a little water. So just do that. That's why it's best to underwater at first and add as you go. That way you know that they are all expanded. Again, I don't want to make this into rocket science. It's not. This is really just a setup if you're using these pods. If you're using seed starter mix, then pre-moisten your seed starter mix first. Whatever you're using, pots or little egg crates or whatever, pre-moisten your seed starter mix. You don't want it soak and saturated, but you want to make sure that that seed starter mix is pre-moistened before you put the seeds down. And you don't have to use really warm water, but pre-moisten your seed starter mix, whether you're using pots or egg crate type of things. Pre-moisten the soil because you want to put the seeds into the soil that's pre-moistened. You don't want to put seeds down in water because the water is going to wash the seeds away. So that's pretty self-explanatory, I think. So also, if you're using the pods and they're all expanded already and you're ready to go and you need to run out or you want to take a break and do it later on in the day or even tomorrow, you can have these expand, put the cover on them, and do it later on. You don't have to do it right now. As long as the pods are already expanded, you put the cover on it, they're moist, then you can go out and do what you have to do. But you don't want to do this and then wait until next week. So just a little suggestion. Everything looks good. They're nice and expanded. But the next thing you have to do is, as you can see, these are peat. Let me see if I can get a good. They're peat. They're basically just netted peat. And as the water expands the top, the netting opens up. So what you do is gently rip open the peat. Do that to all of them. Gently rip them. Don't worry about if you rip them too much or they fall apart. We're gonna do all of them. They're gonna be almost like a little cupcake. Rip them all, open them up, and that's gonna be our little pallet where we're gonna drop our seeds on, and we'll get to that next. Okay, so here they are. They're all gently ripped open. See if we can. I gently ripped open the netting away. Just think of each of these pods as tiny little pots. And the reason why I use this system is because I grow so many Coleus. I start them indoors. So rather than have 250 pots filled with seed mix, I use these pods and start my seeds that way. You're planting a few Coleus in a little pot with potting soil. Think of these or your pot as a big giant pod, or this pod as a little mini pod. Okay, so now they're all well watered. Some may be a little more moist than others. If any of them really feel dry to you, again, just add a tablespoon or two of water, and these are well watered and they're ready for the seeds. I like to label my Coleus just so I have a general idea where I'm at. If you're only planting a few, it doesn't matter. You don't have to use these labels. I do. But try to use these labels. Do not use wood toothpicks or anything that goes into the soil. Wood toothpicks or wood those barbecue stakes, if you put that in the soil, that actually will draw out any kind of nitrogen, and that goes for when you have your Coleus in pots. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but you try to use these if you want to label them, or just label them the way you wherever. But just I don't put anything into these little pods. Or if you're using seed starter mix or a pot, do not use a wood stake to label your plants, because it actually will draw out the nitrogen in the soil. So just stay away from that. But I use these little labels just to keep track. My first set I'm going to do is some colossal marbles. And how much and so forth really makes no difference. I'm not going to focus on that. I'm just going to basically focus. This is just an organization, because I do so many plants. Just to get you guys started, I like to use the white paper plates because the seeds are easy to distinguish. And what I do is I'll put the seeds out on this plate. You can use a little spoon or whatever. You can just tap a few into a little, however you want to get your seeds onto your pods or your seed starter mix. This is just a system I use. But number one main thing is, do not bury your Coleus seeds. Coleus seeds need light. So moisture, light, and warmth. So don't bury your seeds. Okay, so this is how I actually seed my pods. You got all your pods watered. They're ripped open. They're sort of fluffed. Choose your seeds, whatever variety you're planting. It doesn't matter. That's up to you. Again, I do generally 4 to 5 seeds per pod. I can overseed because I've been doing this for many years. I generally overseed because I do plant so many. I overseed my pods, and then as they start to develop, there may be runts or here or there, and I try to pick out the strongest Coleus. And sometimes I get lucky and all 4 or 5 are really strong, and then I separate them. But I have plenty of seeds. I take advantage of that. And what I do is, as you can see, I drop the seeds. I have them on the plate. I tap them out. And if you've purchased seeds from me on my eBay listing, I put them in these little Ziploc baggies for a reason. There's always a little bit of seed chaff in there. The seed chaff generally gets stuck in the Ziploc baggie, and the seeds will roll out easier. I put them out. I tap them out of the Ziploc baggies onto a white paper plate. And that way, as you can see, it's very easy to distinguish the Coleus seeds. And you can see, look around. See how some of them are a little bigger, a little stronger looking, and there's some smaller ones. Maybe they're a little irregular. Pick out. Try to do it. I know it sounds tedious. I can do it. But try to pick out the strongest Coleus seeds that you see, if you can. And choose them. Put them in this spoon. And it's hard for me to do this while I'm filming. But tap them gently spread them along the top of the pod or your seed starter mix. Try to spread them out. Drop them on top of the surface. Do not bury your Coleus seeds. And once you drop them on top of the surface, you know they're all off of the spoon. Take your spoon and gently press them down into the soil. So you want to anchor your Coleus seeds into the soil, but you're not covering them, because the Coleus seeds need light to germinate. They need light, moisture, and warmth. So we got the light, the grow lights, the daylight, the moisture, which is in the pods, and then the warmth, whether it's your room temperature, 70 degrees in your house, or heat mats. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but those are the three important things: light, moisture, and warmth. And you'll get your Coleus seeds will germinate within 3 or 4 days. Sometimes they say 5 a week, but most of my seeds, they germinate within 3 or 4 days. If yours don't, be patient. Doesn't mean you did anything wrong. That's just a guide. Your Coleus seeds should germinate within 5 days or so. If they're not, shoot me a text, either here on Instagram, and we'll take a look and see maybe there's something that you didn't do right or whatever. But it's not that difficult. So just choose your Coleus seeds or whatever you're going to do. Apply this system to your pods. Get them all seeded, and then we'll get to the next step. All right, so I'm done with one tray. And again, I'm going to wait about 3 days. And I'm not going to film another film. This will be the only one that's necessary for you guys and gals. If you're going to be using this Jiffy Pod system or the seed mixture or potting mixture, it's the same principle. But everything's done. I have them marked. Again, don't use wood. Don't stick anything in the pods or your pots unless it's these type of composite plastic labels, seed labels, because wood will take nitrogen out of the soil and so forth. So that I actually learned that from a follower. So I learned lots from you guys, and I continue to learn, and I continue to hopefully teach everybody how to do this and enjoy these beautiful Coleus. And before we know it, we'll be trimming and getting into other things like hardening and getting them ready for the outdoors. So stay tuned. I got lots and lots to teach you, and I have lots of videos that you can go through and look over and learn from. Let me get this covered up, and I'll show you in a few hours what will happen to the dome after covering up. And again, I have the heat mat going. Just going to reiterate this in case this is your first time on my channel and you're using this type of setup or heat mats. Heat mats, good to use, helps with the germinations, keeps them nice and warm. However, about a week after you see germinations form and they're well on their way, turn off your heat mats. Discontinue the use of heat mats. Heat mats are only to get the seeds germinated. If you leave your heat mats going while your germinations are already showing and developing, what's going to happen is that you're going to cook your little seedlings. Your little germinations, they're going to get cooked, and they're going to stall and eventually die. So disconnect your heat mat, use them just to get your germinations going. Make sure all of your germinations have shown up, are growing, and are on their way. And after a few days, a week at most, shut your heat mat. So discontinue using your heat mats and just let your trays develop. And I'll get into more details once I do videos. Once I start to get the germinations, we'll shoot out another video. So we'll be pretty active. We'll keep updating, and if you're following along, I'm going to guide you through each stage until your Coleus are well on their way. So stay tuned here. Jim's Holy is a Coleus. And before you know it, we'll be planting these beautiful, beautiful Coleus in pots. Okay, everybody, here you go. So this is like an hour This is about an hour in the greenhouse. I have the heat mat going. You can see already all that moisture. So basically all the moisture in those pods is evaporating, but the dome is keeping that moisture in. It's creating a nice ecosystem for the pods, for the germinations, and that's why generally this system works really, really efficiently, and I'll get germination showing in probably 3 days. And most of them, I'm hoping that a 95% or plus germination rate. That's what I've generally gotten in the past. So no reason to believe I should get different results this year. If there are a few pods that do not germinate, no big deal. I'll wait a few more days and see if anything shows. After about 5 or 6 days, I'll reseed any of the pods that don't show any growth. Another thing you have to realize when you're using these pods, the dome tray, this type of system, or even your pots with the pre-moistened seed mix, once you do put this cover on, all this moisture, the past few years, there's a phenomenon going on. It's sort of like you'll see a thin, almost like a cobweb type of a mold grow across the top of the pod. You'll almost see it. Generally that happens, it's been happening in the past few years. It's not really detrimental to the plant. What I do is I gently take a model brush and just brush it away from the germination. It looks like cobwebs. It just looks like a thin layer of cobwebs, and that's just a result of the moisture, the overabundance of moisture, because a lot of moisture brings, the germinations, but it can also bring like a mold, and that's what it is. So it's not a big deal if it does happen. Again, just take a little brush and wipe it away. It's not a big deal. So, okay, lastly, this is an indoor greenhouse. You don't have to have one. If you do have one, it just helps. It's an extra level. It's an extra. It's a great way to grow anything, not just Coleus. It's a great way to start your vegetables, any kind of plants. It makes a nice little ecosystem for your Coleus. Even though we have the tray, I like to use this obviously to hold my trays and my heat mats and keep things organized. And I do have a full spectrum grow light hanging up above, and I'm going to hook up. I have the other grow lights down below. I'm going to hook them up. Once I get the trays going, I'm going to actually put one up here, and we'll show you a video on that. As much light as possible, and keep your grow lights on 24/7 while the germinations are developing. Once they're a few weeks old, then what I do is I introduce them into the natural state of life. And that is sunlight, sunset, dark sleep, and then sunrise. So I'll set my grow lights to turn off at, say, 10 o'clock before I go to bed, and back on at 6 in the morning. So, and we'll get into that later. Just give you an idea what you can expect. But that's a valid question. Keep your grow lights on. These are LED. They're safe, energy efficient. They use very little electricity. Very safe. You can see how close it is to plastic. No heat. That's why I recommend. And make sure you get full spectrum. Full spectrum are all the colors, the spectrum, all of the gross colors that plants need to develop. Okay, so it's been all day. I pace myself and take it easy and sort of plan what Coleus I'm going to be planting in this tray, and then I'm going to take a look at the Coleus seeds I have. I don't have a lot. I generally grow between 6 to 8, 9 varieties at most. I don't go nuts. I don't have a lot of space. Yes, I grow 500 Coleus, but I like to grow a lot of my favorites, and a lot of them, like the Kongs, the Jitters. I may grow 50 or 60 Jitters. I might grow 100 Kongs. So because they're my favorites, and those are my customers' favorites, they're beautiful, beautiful Coleus. And then I'll grow other Coleus, maybe 50 of one type and 50 of another. And I have a nice mixture, and each variety has a little bit of difference. There's always going to be some kind of a mutation and so forth. So it's what's exciting about Coleus, and how beautiful they are. And different colors and patterns of each variety may vary from every seed that you plant. So that's what's exciting. So to get started, to follow along here, again, will be regular. You can expect some regular videos coming out as my Coleus germinations progress. If you have any questions, just leave a comment and I'll get back to you. And I'm here to help. So thanks for watching. Stay tuned, and we'll see you soon. Take care, everybody.